In this video, I'm going to create a dashboard. If you're serious about creating dashboards, I suggest you look into Google Data Studio for really cool looking dashboard and really something that's more robust. But if you're really stuck with Google Sheets, then I'm going to show you what tricks you could use to create some dashboards in Google Sheets. Now, again, if you want to look into Google Data Studio, I have videos covering Google Data Studio. In this video, I'll show dashboards in Google Sheets. Okay, so before we start, I want to show a little demonstration about what we're going to build so you can see the end result, and then we can see how we get there. So this is the data we have, our transactions. I want to make a dashboard. So I'm going to this dashboard tab so you can see what the dashboard looks like. So we can see we have our total sales. We have a map that shows our sales by states. We have our breakdown by regions. We have our year-to-year sales. We have our performance of different salespeople and the comparison to the average line, and so on. So it's not the prettiest dashboard, but it's not going to be about design. It's going to be about functionality. So you should be able to take the core principles we take from here and just go from here to build a very nice dashboard if you want to do that. The coolest thing about this dashboard is not really having all these items here, is that you have one filter that controls everything on this particular sheet. So if I go here and I switch from all regions to, let's say, Midwestern, you will see how everything on this updates. We have the total sales, just Midwestern. We have our year-to-year report. We have the map updating to just Midwestern region. So we basically just updating every single report on this to this filter. Now, if we wanted to change the start date to a different start date and we want a different date range, you can do that. So if I want my report to go from, half of 2016, let's say I want to go from June 1st, 2016, I can go here and click, and it's going to filter everything in my report to that particular date range. And I can also choose like an end date. So if I want to go all the way up to, in 2017, I'll select June 30th. Everything will update. So everything updates based on one filter we have on top. And if I do all, there we go. That's no region filter, but it's still filtering by date. So that's what we're going to build in this video. To be able to follow this video and understand what I'm doing, you'll need to know a set of functions. You need to know query function. You need to understand join, text join functions. You need to understand generally how to concatenate string using and. Some other things you'll need are pivot tables. You'll need some charts, if function, possibly ifs instead of if. And overall, that's going to be the core, functionality set we'll need to build a dashboard. All of these different things I cover in separate videos. So if there is one of these you don't know, I suggest you go and watch videos covering those functions and then come back and watch this dashboard video after that. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new tab and create a temporary data set tab. So this is going to be, I'm going to call it temp data set. So this temporary data set is going to be coming from this transactions data. This data is what I'm going to use to create all the reports on my dashboard. So the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything in my dashboard, I'm simply going to go to this temp data set tab and create a query function and use the data on this tab. So I'll go in the corner, Control Shift right down to highlight my data. I will remove the reference to the end row so that new rows are automatically added to our results. I'm going to do comma, and the query, that it's going to be very simple. I'm simply going to do select star, which means select all columns, and comma. And in this particular data set, we have one row as headers. So one, close parentheses, hit enter. As of right now, this should just take everything from transactions tab and pull it to this tab. So basically we're creating a dynamic copy of transactions as of now. And all the reports I'm going to do on my dashboard are going to be based on this tab. Now I'm going to create another tab, and that's going to be my dashboard. In my dashboard, I'm going to first do a little setup. So I'll do start date. This will be some user inputs if necessary, and date. Something like that. I'll use these two cells for users to enter the start and end date. And for those, I'll select those, and I'll do some data validation for that. I want to make sure that whatever people entered is actually a valid date. And if it's not, I will reject the input to those cells. Make it a little pretty, I guess. Do some borders. Make it bold. Change the color. Again, this is not going to be design oriented. So if you want to go into like creating a beautiful dashboard, you should probably spend time and do, the design part on your own. Mostly I'm going to concentrate on functional things. So functionalities that you'll need to actually be able to build a dashboard. So the first thing I'm going to do, I want to get my total sales on my dashboard as a first thing over here. For that, I'm going to create a big cell. I want it to be large. So I'm going to just highlight these 4 cells together. I'll go under format, merge cells, merge all. That will convert that to one large cell. I'll also merge these 2 cells together. So format, merge cells, merge all. So now I have one large cell here and one large cell here. So in this cell, I want to display the total. So I'll do equals sum. And I'll go to my temp data set. I'll select this column of sales. Close my parentheses. Hit enter. That's the total. Now I can make that a lot bigger than that. I can do currency formatting, maybe go under format and do some alignment, put it in the middle vertically, and also put it in the middle horizontally. Make it bold, change the background to, I don't know, something dark, and change the foreground, maybe something light. And here I'm just going to type sales. Again, probably should be much larger text. I'll format it and align it in the middle and put this in the middle, something like that. And I'll do some borders. Here we go. That's our total sales. So that's very easy, hopefully. So the next thing I'm going to do is create some reports out of this data set. And the first report I'm going to make is going to be our total sales broken down by brand. I'm going to create a pivot table for that. I'll click in this data, go under data and pivot table. You see how it made a new tab for our pivot table. That's how pivot tables work. If you know pivot tables, I'm going to choose values, and it's going to be my sales. And I'm going to choose rows, which is going to be my brand. Now, the thing is that I want this on my dashboard. So I'm going to simply just highlight this pivot table, copy it, go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to click here and paste. So that will place that pivot table on this tab. Now I don't need this here, so I'm going to delete this tab. So now that's my pivot table on this tab. Now another thing I don't want all these lines on my dashboard. So I'm going to go under view and remove grid lines. So it will look cleaner like this. So instead of calling this sum of sales, maybe we'll call this sales to make it look a little better. Other than that, that's fine. So that's our first report on this. The next report we may want to do our total sales by state. So we have state, we have our sales, right? Now we want to do our total sales by state. Okay, so I'm going to make a pivot now that's going to be our total sales by state. So I'll go ahead and click on this temp data set, data, pivot table, and then I'll go under values and choose sales, and then under rows I'm going to choose state. So that will be our total sales by state. Now before I move any forward, I want to change something about both of the pivot tables that I've made so far. And what that is that these pivot tables refer to a particular range, and I want to make sure that if we're adding more records, it's changing and adding those to our totals. So I'm going to go here in this temp data set where it says the editor, and instead of referring from A1 through H5049, I'm going to remove references for the rows. So I'll do A through H, which will basically just select the whole column. And the same thing I'm going to do for this one. Go here, remove the reference for 1, and remove the reference for that number. Now what that's going to do, it's going to add this new blank to our pivot table because it's selecting the whole column here, and below all the values there are going to be some blanks. So because of that, now we have blanks as one of the options. So we need to go ahead and remove those blanks. So I'm going to go under filters, and what I want to do is filter this by state, which is this column that I already have, and I'm going to go ahead and remove blanks. So that's gone. And for the other pivot table that's already in our dashboard, we should repeat the same. Now because I'm breaking it down by brand, I'm gonna go ahead and choose brand under filters, and all items, remove blanks, hit OK. Here we go. So we took care of that problem. Now it should be dynamically updating as we add more rows to our table. And really we're not going to be adding rows here, we're going to be adding rows here in transactions, but that will reflect in our temporary dataset table. So this one was that pivot by state, pivot sales by state. And the reason I'm not moving this to that tab is because I don't really want this particular thing on my dashboard. What I want is a chart out of this. So I'm going to click on this and build a chart. So I'll go ahead and hit insert. I'll go ahead and do chart. And there it is. It made a chart out of it. Now, instead of using a column chart, I'm going to move this to a geo chart. And here, I'm going to change some things. The first thing I'm going to change, I'm going to go under customize. And under geo, I'm going to change this from world to United States. So now it shows the map looking good. Maybe make it a little smaller. Now what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to copy that chart, go to my dashboard and paste it. And here I'll figure out where I'm going to place that. I'll probably scroll this down, and here you'll have some sort of label, total sales by state, and change the size of this. That's not the point here. Okay, good enough. So that's our state thing. Now moving to our next report. So this one, we don't need this chart here, so I'm going to delete it. We do need the pivot table, so we're going to keep that. But I don't want to have this tab on the way, so I'm going to right click on this tab and I'm going to hide sheet. So now it's hidden. And at some point we're probably going to hide this temp dataset tab too, because we're not going to want to see that as well. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another report, which is going to be my salespeople's report and their performance. So I'll go to this tab. To create that report, I'm going to build a pivot table first. So I'll go under data, pivot table. Brings us to this tab. Values is going to be sales. The rows is going to be our sales reps. We want to make sure that any blanks are gone after we do this. So I'm going to scroll down and under filters, I'm going to choose sales rep and uncheck blanks. The next thing we want to do is make some average line so we can see what's the average. And to do that, I have to do some calculated fields. So I'm going to do the average of our salespeople's sales for that. So what I'm going to do equals sum. I'm going to go to my temp data set. So I'm going to go from here and shift down a little bit. I'm going to remove the reference to the row. So basically starting from G2 and all the way down. Close that, hit enter. And that's total sales, which is this number over here. Now we need to divide that by the number of sales reps we have to get the average. So we take that and divide it by count unique, open parentheses. I go to my temp data set and I'm going to choose from the first sales rep over here, shift down again and do the same thing. Remove the reference, close and hit enter. Okay, so apparently 24,954. Let's cross check that just on the side. So I'm going to do the average of this. Oops. All of those. Make sure we're getting the same number, 24,954, 7278. So that's just formatting. If we format it as a currency, same number. So we're good. So the reason we can't do this is because when we do a calculated field, we can't use the cells in our pivot to do that. So we're using the original data set. Again, I go into more detail of this in my combo charts videos. I'll go ahead and cut that formula. That gives me the average. Go back here and create another calculated field. And instead of sum, it's going to be custom. And we'll paste the formula in there. And this will be average. So we'll type that and we'll change that to currency. All right, so now we have the line of average and now I can make a chart out of this with the line of average. So I'll click here, insert chart. And we don't want a histogram, combo chart. That's good. So I'm going to add the line of average now. So it needs to be starting from here, going down to the end. And there it is. That's my line of average. So I'm going to move this legend, click on the legend from right. We'll put it maybe on top and maybe change the line of average color to something different. So that's our average line. And we can see who's performing better or worse than the average. So I can move this to see everybody's names. And then we can just do Okay, so that's that. There we have it. So this sum of sales title is redundant. I'll remove that out of there so we don't have to look at it. And probably before I copy, maybe also rename this. Pivot sales by sales rep. Great. So now I'm going to click on the chart, copy it, go back to my dashboard and paste. Perfect. I'll keep it this size. Maybe we can even make it bigger to match this too. Again, you'll figure out the design on your own. So this one I don't need. Delete that. And we want to be able to hide this.